All right, so we've concluded with the 2021 NFL Draft. Who do you guys think are the clear-cut winners so far?
I think, well, me personally, I think one of the clear cut winners has to be the Chicago Bears. One of the things that we pretty much been noticing coming into the NFL drafts, the fact that Justin Fields has been slowly and slowly falling down, let's say, the draft boards, and no one really understood why. Coming out of high school, he's pretty much the number two behind Trevor Lawrence. In college, for a very long time, he was the number two behind Trevor Lawrence, and all of a sudden, I have absolutely no idea why. He's just been trickling down the scout boards. I mean, you can't really explain. I mean, even on ESPN on First Take on Undisputed, they're all talking about how Justin Fields was being, you feel me, wrongfully, basically slighted. And I think at this particular point, at the number 11 pick, I believe it was, that is an absolute steal for Justin Fields. I mean, let's be honest, we're talking about a bona fide stud. This man ran a 4.4, has accuracy. The only question that you really have is if he could actually, how fast he makes decisions. And of course, because he was in an offense that was really predicated on only a one read system, you kind of can't necessarily too much, project into the pro level in terms of actually breaking down a defense. But I think just as a talent, I mean, that's amazing. And of course, for a team like the Chicago Bears that hasn't necessarily had a quarterback in a very long time, I can't necessarily tell you a time when they actually did have a legitimate quarterback. Honestly, I think Justin Fields is probably going to be
Never.
their best quarterback, probably in their whole franchise. Honestly.
I'm gonna go a little bit different, man. I respect that pick a lot, but I don't know. I think with the Bears, they still gonna struggle just because of how much money they put into the defense and their lack of attention towards protecting the quarterback. I'm not even going to go QB, even though I know that that's the most important position. I think the Falcons are the clear-cut winners of this draft simply because they got the best player in the draft. Now, hear me out. I know he's a position player. He's not a quarterback. He's not going to have as much control over the game. But you have an aging Julio Jones, who's still top 5 wide receiver in this league. You got Calvin Ridley. And now you got Kyle Pitts, who they're saying is like a generational talent. They're calling him the next Calvin Johnson, and he's a tight end. He's kind of a hybrid, something that we really may have never seen before. And Matt Ryan is not a slouch. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta figures out a way to get back to the Super Bowl off this pick alone, and that might be the rookie of the year. So I got to give it to them, man. I think the Falcons are going to be they're the biggest winners of this draft.
So originally, I was agreeing with Rob, and I still do. Like the Justin Fields pick that the Chicago Bears actually traded up to get. They traded up to get Justin Fields. I tip my hat off to them because they've really never had a good quarterback. The most known quarterback that they've had was Jay Cutler, and he's most known for just stealing money from them and being bad. That it's a crime what he did in Chicago. But I'm gonna go a little different. I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, hear me out. I know they're a bad team, but they're a young team. And then with Joe Burrow, they just gave that man Jamarr Chase, right? Then in the second round, they drafted the tackle from Clemson. I forgot his name. So they're getting Joe Burrow some protection, which is important. Like they need to protect that young man at all costs. I remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the NFL, Rob said the most important thing in the NFL is developing a young quarterback. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to do just that. Hopefully it works out for them because I really want to see Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow connection. Joe Burrow's a stud. I feel like he's going to do great things in this league. I say that the winner for me, my winner of the NFL draft this year were the Cincinnati Bengals. But now that we spoke about the winners, what do you guys think about the losers?
Real quick. I want to comment on a couple of things. Well, first things first. I want to for the Falcons pick. That right there is definitely something. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a bad pick, but it was definitely an interesting pick.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give full respect to the GM of the Atlanta Falcons now, Terry Fontenot. He didn't necessarily pack up, decide to rebuild. He could have easily selected a quarterback and said, "Hey, for the next 3 years, don't judge me by my record, judge me by my actual progression of the actual football team." He could have definitely done that, but he said, "Nah, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna stick to my quarterback, and I'm gonna get him." Again, as you said, the best player in the NFL draft, and obviously he was. He's under pressure. Again, he didn't take the easy way out. The Atlanta Falcons definitely do have to win basketball games. I mean, not basketball games, football games. But here's the thing: the Falcons, their problem wasn't necessarily the offense. Their problem was the defense. So even though I have to commend the Falcons for taking the best player in the NFL draft, you just have to acknowledge what their deficiencies were. So I'm not necessarily completely sure. I don't know.
I mean,
You go ahead, Ty. You go ahead.
I think simply because when you have the number 4 pick in the draft, you couldn't. I didn't see, a defensive guy worthy of going number 4 over Kyle Pitts. A rule of thumb is, when you're on the clock, if the best player in the draft is still available, no matter if you have, if that position is loaded on your team, you gotta go with him. And I think that they're gonna have to be a bend and not break kind of team because defensively they definitely have shown that they can be a liability. But in this new day and age in the NFL, man, putting up numbers is what wins games. You can check it with Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Green Bay. Although all of them have solid defenses, I think with this high-powered offense that Atlanta has, they're going to be in the conversation with all of them to put up points.
I agree. I feel like with the Atlanta Falcons making this move, I feel like they're making a statement that, okay, we believe in Matt Ryan. We feel like he still has some left in the tank. He's going to give us a good couple years. So instead of doing what Green Bay did to Aaron Rodgers, and don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan, but Green Bay didn't give Aaron Rodgers weapons, and he wants out. The Falcons don't want to see their franchise quarterback want out because he's not getting sufficient weapons. And I feel like with Kyle Pitts, that's exactly what the Falcons were doing, and they were letting the rest of the league know we still have faith in Matt Ryan.
Look, again, I have all the understanding for that. You just have to understand you need some sort of similar to defense, and at this particular point, I'm not necessarily sure they have it. Of course, they have it. They're bringing a new defensive system. Mm-hmm. They could potentially, improve in that end just because of system-wise. But as of right now, even last year, if you guys do recall, they scored 39 points against the Dallas Cowboys, and they gave up 40 points and lost the football game on a very I wouldn't even call it controversial, just a stupid onside kick. Regardless, we've seen very good offensive teams not win football games, like you call it, basketball games. Similar to the Dallas Cowboys when Dak Prescott was healthy. Dak Prescott was number 1 in passing yards, but he was just losing football games because his defense just couldn't hold up. So at this particular point, it was a risky move because he will be judged, new GM will be judged by the wins and losses. And judging my defense, the wins don't necessarily look like they're probably going to be coming.